All right. Thank you for joining the show, my friend. All right.
You are welcome.
Yeah. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, and before we do this, just so you know, this is a format that obviously we're doing on TikTok, but it's also on YouTube. So whatever we're doing today, people can basically see it there if they missed it. If you had people that were planning on coming, it might show up late. So if you're in our lives, just so you guys know, there's 3 lives that are actually active right now. What we need you to do while you're in here and hear this great content that you're going to hear today is go ahead and click on those heart me so you can connect with all of us. If you can tap on the live so we can get this further out in the algorithm, and also be engaged and ask questions, because we're going to be asking a lot of questions to this Renaissance man here. But we need you guys to also chime in and also help with some of the questions as well. All right. Before we get into this, we like to keep it a little casual. So, you're our guest on the show. We're going to treat you very well. You just relax. Don't worry about nothing. You know what I'm saying? Just enjoy yourself. Yeah, you're in good hands. So we're just going to do this how we normally do this. First of all, how was your weekend, Mr. Wilder?
My weekend was blessed. It was good. I got some rest. A little too rainy for me, but I won't complain.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying about the same. I went to the mall, and I had to go to the mall on Saturday. I went to the mall 3 times, the Roosevelt Mall, if you know what that mall is out in Long Island. 3 times because my phone was acting up, and they said they was going to fix it. I had an appointment at 11, and then I waited there 2 hours, walked around shop, came back. They said, we still going to need another 2 or 3 hours. So then I drove my family home, and then I went back again, and then they said,
you dragged your family with you?
because we're out, we being out. And then I come back, the phone still wasn't working. So now they still have my phone. I have a loaner phone right now.
Let me ask you a question.
First of all, I don't want to know, because I already know what you're about to ask me.
I know
you was about to ask me that. See, why do we got to have the Android and iPhone wars?
I don't have that problem, so I wouldn't understand.
What type of phone you got, Rodney?
I have an iPhone.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
It's 21st century.
All people keep double tapping on my end. I used to be an Android. I love Android. I used to be all dongle for Android. My entire family at that time was Android. And then my kids start to move away to iPhone. My son was there to move. And then one time I was in class and I forgot my iPad phone that I keep the music on. And I had to use, because I used to stream with Android. So I had to use my Android to play my music. And a friend of mine, Cassidy, let me hear iPhone to stream. And I was like, oh my God, what a difference it made.
Welcome to the 21st century.
And since then I haven't, that was
You revert back, right?
I did with that.
You know the iPhone has Android technology in it. You know that?
Listen, Mr. James, we're waiting for you. The water's warm.
You're going to come over because when you go to pick up that phone, you're going to get frustrated. You know what? It don't make any sense. It just move over.
I have never had any complaints, okay? I barely have any issues with my phone, so I don't know what y'all is talking about.
Okay.
And Mr. Rodney, that's not a good way to join my show by joining him on the iPhone world. Okay, I'm the one that invited you to this show. Remember that, okay?
I'm not, it's all about the technology we're talking about. It's not about the friendship or anything like that. It's
Okay.
And the right side.
There's one thing you're going to understand about me. You have to give Jack his jacket, all right?
You have to give Jack his jacket.
You're not going to string me over. Thank you, Abu. You're not going to string you over to Android. I love the Android. At the iPhone, take it to another level.
All right. So how was your weekend?
He's on the right side of history. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
So
I need to ask you, how was your weekend as well, my brother, Mr. Rodney, before we get deep into content?
my weekend actually was pretty good, pretty interesting enough. D.E. Wilder said that he didn't like the rain, but I taught my 2 classes on Saturday, and the classes were packed. People were turned in. And especially the second class, I had to stop to get the list from upstairs because we had more people than bike.
Wow.
And then after those 2 classes, I'm running the Brooklyn half marathon next month.
Oh, really?
I'm running the Brooklyn half. So I had already promised one of the guys, he does a lot of running, that we would go running. The rain came, but we still ended up running in the rain. But it was good. I came home, relaxed all day Sunday, but I worked online and was able to share the word and all of that online.
That's beautiful.
I had a good time.
Glad everybody had a nice weekend in spite of the rain. We're going to get right into this, but before we get deep into this, I do want to start this off by saying our guest today is a remarkable individual with a diverse background and wealth of experience. Originally from Barbados, right? Okay. They have been living.
You look here for that.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Matter of fact, I got my cheers too. Don't worry about it. I got my cheers for you, brother.
I keep stopping people. Give me those heart me's.
That's right.
And, okay, he also is 30 years living in this country, the U.S., and he is a father of 3 adult children, even though he looks like he's 25 years old. All right. And he comes from a very large family. Okay. Matter of fact, he's got 15 siblings. Okay.
Right. And it was from my mother's side, 15 from my mother's side. And then my father had an extra, like 7 or 8 that I really never knew.
Dang.
Therefore, you were never lonely.
Never.
So
that is why I find it so hard sometimes to be alone.
Exactly.
And let's keep going, all right? Because it's like I told you, we got a real Renaissance man here, and I'm gonna tell him what a Renaissance man is. Because anyway, I'm not gonna steal the conversation me and him had earlier a couple days. But let me get back to my introduction.
Go ahead.
So 30 years here, 15 siblings.
That's 33 going on 34.
34. Okay, and he has a secondary education from Barbados and attended college in the U.S., earning a BT in computer science and an MBA. Additionally, he also is a DEI certified professional, y'all.
Wonderful. This is going to be good.
So we will give me this is going to be a good interview, okay? All right. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Mr. Rodney, but yeah, it's time to be that expert that you've been for the last, 20 years.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'll try my best.
Okay, you an expert, okay? Now, let me finish. He also currently works for New York City Employees Retirement System, all right? So and he also is a gym instructor for Brooklyn Sports Club, where he has his own brand, y'all, called, now I've been worried about if I'm going to say this right. That brand is called Calypso.
No, Calypso.
Calypso
Fritz.
Calypso
Size. Calypso Size. Calypso Size.
Calypso Size. Thank you.
Calypso Size. It's called.
So it's a merging of the Calypso, the Caribbean with the exercise.
Okay.
You know it.
I'm happy for you.
We have words, right?
Oh, man. Oh, hell no. Now you really in trouble. Okay. I hope my wife wasn't on this platform and heard that. Okay. So then let me keep going. So he has that brand that he started. And I was going to show some footage of that because you really got to see it's a lot of high impact and energy, you guys. It really is. It's very intimidating. But anyway, his passion for fitness and helping people feel great has driven him to start this journey over 15 years ago. Besides that, his professional achievements, he also likes baking and doing Instacart, and have previously served as a youth pastor and attended Bible school. Welcome our guest, our next Renaissance man, Mr. Rodney Graves. Welcome to the show. Did I say this name wrong?
I really don't have a problem pronouncing it, but we pronounce it Graves.
Okay.
Great.
So, see, here we go again. You got two A's in there, man. You got two A's in there, man. Why you playing with me, Mr. Rodney?
You don't worry about my 2 A's, right?
What we got here is a consummate Renaissance name. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a pleasure to meet you. And this is going to be fantastic.
That's right.
All mine. I was looking forward to this interview and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? How am I going to do it? But let's go about it. People don't sit down in my box. Keep trouble telling me. Record me here telling people what to do.
What got you here is yourself. your beautiful self. Just be yourself.
Yeah, that's right. First of all, your life, he was saying, am I really a Renaissance man last week? And I'm like, let me tell you the definition of a Renaissance man so you can absolutely be assured that you are a Renaissance man. All right. The definition of a Renaissance man is a person who utilizes all their talents to the best of their ability, to the betterment of their lives and others.
Right.
Aren't you doing that right now?
Doing that to the 10th power.
Exactly. And if you go look at your footage, if people go to his TikTok right now, go down to his profile, look at all his videos and see all the lives that he's helping change their bodies in ways that they can live longer. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get into those details, but that alone, forget the professional side of you, forget the spiritual side, that alone, but you have other things. So yes, you are a Renaissance man. Yeah. Yes. So let's get into it, Mr. Rodney. The first thing I guess I like to start is let's get some background about you and your upcoming and your background. You started in Barbados. Can you tell us about your experience and how you transitioned here to US?
Sure, that's pretty easy. And I started, like I said, my mom had a lot of kids. There were 15 of us from my mom's side. Three of my siblings passed away. I lost 2 siblings, one at least a year apart. And my 2 younger brothers passed away, and my oldest brother passed. But besides that, I grew up in a home. I came from humble beginnings, I tell people this. At one time, my mother had 6 or 7 of us in school at one time. And that was far from primary school to secondary school. And sometimes I didn't come from a rich family. And I would have to, sometimes I would go to school 3 days out of the 5. Sometimes I'd go to school 4 days out of the 5, so others to go. So I had to make do with what I have to make do, but not using that as a limitation, because I was still able to do my CSEs. I was still able to do my O levels and stuff to get to school to where I was, because even though it might look like if I came from poverty and stuff, I was never hungry. We never lacked for anything, because I hear, even though she had enough kids, we had aunts and uncles, and it was the village. It took the village.
Yes.
My best friend, that Sherry, her mother was so instrumental, because if she go to the store and buy Sherry a pair of shoes, she would buy me a pair of shoes too.
Wow.
Of course, they are sisters, so that kind of thing helped shape who I am today. And I graduated secondary school, and then from there I got a job in the supermarket, and I was working in the supermarket, and I was in church all along. Technically, my grandmother raised me. I was raised by my grandmother because she passed away with 11 going on 12 one in secondary school, and she passed away. Then I moved back with my mom and stuff right now, but it was not a bed of roses, but it was fun. I knew what it is to have fun as a child, going out one time, summer vacation, doing all of that.
That's a beautiful thing, because if someone hears a story of humble beginnings, I think we all came from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
They always say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And you might have been downtrodden or scraping to get on and get along. Well, what they don't realize is when you're around so much love and the village that you mentioned, as a child, you don't know that you're in humble beginnings.
Exactly.
You don't even think you were without. Everything seems like it's great because you feel the love, you feel the support. You don't know that. You didn't grow up feeling that way.
Correct. And the thing about me, when I grew up, I always had people there that would pour into my life. There's a lady named Calypso. She's in letting know chronicles. We speak all the time. She would always call me her son. I was always proud of mom, but she have always been there. Her family have always been there. So when I left secondary school, I went to work at the supermarket. And while working at the supermarket, thank you, Busy BME, appreciate you. While I was at the supermarket, and me grew up in the church, and there was something we called quarterly. So every quarter, so the first Sunday in January, we got to be in church.
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing stop taking for anybody. I'm not doing it. I'm cutting the long story short. When I went to work the Monday, they were doing stop taking the Sunday, but the quarterly the Monday. And when I went, they fired me. And when they fired me, I got my unemployment, and then my cousin, who was up, he had already visited the United States, and stuff, we're back to come back. And then she said, Rodney, why don't you come on up? And the last check that I got, I bought a plane ticket and I came to the US.
Wow.
But let me put it this way. When I came here, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a 5-year plan that I wrote in a book.
Nice.
And I could show you that 5-year plan. You know, the Bible says you must write the vision down and make it.
I always have a fear in my name.
And
Write it down.
and at the end, it was speaking out loud.
Nice.
Those 5 goals down. And I completed those 5 goals within the 5 years that I had.
That's a blessing.
So, and I give honor to God, and the rest they say is history.
Exactly.
You understand?
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Because that also means that you believed in yourself.
Correct. And the potential that I had, and it didn't come easy. It didn't come easy because
Of course.
I had a very low self-esteem of myself growing up. I was bullied in school. I was really bad, quiet and stuff like that. But when I came here, I went to this church called the Church of the Nazarene. And there was a young lady there. She was the children's choir leader. God bless her soul. She passed away now. Beautiful young lady, doctor. And there was a song the choir sang one time. They used to say, I'm a promise, I'm a capital P, I'm a promise of possibility. And then there was a song that said, God don't mean no joke, something like that. And I will repeat that to myself in the mirror. I will look myself in the mirror and I will repeat that to myself. And that's where my confidence came in. That's where I got this ball in this race. You know what? I am somebody. I am somebody.
Right.
So
That's right.
where I get that from, it didn't come easy.
Yep.
But I had to go through the process. That's my thing now. You got to trust the process.
That's good. Trust the process. Exactly. Just a little 6 degrees of separation. When I grew up, I went to the church of Beulah Church of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Where's it at? Marcy.
And Fulton.
That's right. Pastor Wilbur Joel.
I know where that church is, right there, opposite where the Burger King was.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right.
My old stomping ground. I know those places.
That's right. Mr. J.
And sisters did your brothers and sisters come with you?
No, I was so fortunate that while I was in the church, I met this young lady and we got married. And I was young. She was relatively young. And I was 24. She was going on 21, 22. And we got married. And she did make the verse for me. I have no shame in my she's a beautiful young lady. She's the mother of my kids. We are divorced. And I tell people that she's a smart lady and everything we have is still in her name. I would never change that. Because she, in spite of anything or everything, she's deserving of that. Nobody else is. My life insurance, my everything on the job is in her name. It's not changing. I didn't even put it in my kid's name because at the end of the day, they could do whatever they want to do. But I trust that she would do it and separate it and give it to them, even me and them, even if she don't do it. I didn't go so they ain't gonna do it.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but she's a beautiful young lady.
That's great.
So when you came to this country, and you said that was like 33 years ago now, right? How did you find the career path you were on? Did you go right into, I'm assuming you didn't go right into HR, right? So you were somewhere else before.
Right, I didn't. So what happened when I came here, I like a lot of reading. But when I came here and I didn't have my papers or anything, I didn't become idle. I said, let's do this GED, get it out of the way. Then my cousin, who I care with, her name is Juno. She's my favorite cousin, my bestest cousin. Yeah, tell me and tell her everything about me because I wouldn't so. And we used to go to night school. When she was working, I would meet her in the city and I would go do this course and type in and all whatever course I could find to do, I would do it. And then when the time came and I got my papers, the same pastor, Beulah Church of the Nazarene, Reverend Stanley Moore, and I think I mentioned him because I think the question is going to come up about somebody who's influenced my life.
Right.
His father worked from the New York City Employees Recounts System. It wasn't my intention to go into IT. That was not my intention at all. My intention was to get a job. I just wanted to work. And there was a gentleman named Mr. Branham. And before I got into IT, I got my papers and I got married. He gave me a job in construction. Could you believe me working in construction? I don't even know. Listen, all of my brothers are mechanics, the carpenters, the masons, all that. Could you imagine me being in construction? But the good thing about it was I learned something. I was employed to help them do whatever they had to do. And anybody knows me, you know that I'm always on time. I'm a stickler for time. I don't like to be late. I don't like to wait on people. The only boy who's got me waiting in this Cassidy, I don't know why, but I don't like to wait. He was fortunate to give me that job, and I was grateful for that. Then Brenda Stokes, who was the daughter of the pastor I went to, work for News Nicers. And she said to me, Rodney, we're looking for a tent. I said, sure, I'll do it. And she told her boss, she said, Rodney, we've been looking for somebody for this position for years, and they would not hire anybody. But they hired me.
Wow.
And I started in the computer room with the mainframe, the tapes, everything. And the individual that I was, and the thinking person that I am, and I said, people, the Bible said, whatever your hands point to, do it.
Right.
You should go a mile, and you could go 2 miles, go the extra mile. And when I went, I realized that the staff they have there were aging. And they're going to be retiring sometime soon. Let me position myself.
There we go.
To see what happens. Because sometimes you got to position yourself. And you got to wait your chance.
Right.
I thought things that I could change. And I said to them, there was something we call on the mainframe, where we do a backup of the mainframe. And then you reformat it, and then you restore. That would take all of Monday morning. So sometimes 12 o'clock, people that work from 8 o'clock are not able to do anything. To the director, I say, Carol, bless her soul. This is what I could do. I'll stay after work on Friday. I will do the backup, the format, and then I will kick the restore off. I'll really come in on Monday morning. It would be, the system would be there. Monday morning we came in, and the system, nobody had no time to lollygag. Everyone.
They hated that, right?
They did, but they love it because it allowed them to get more work done. They were more productive.
Productivity.
All the paperwork that they used to bring in to run these jobs, I created forms for them and soft copies. Email these to us. We're not taking these anymore. So I was creative in my thinking. I give everything to God. I made a vast difference. Within 2 years, I was a supervisor.
Wow. That's incredible.
And then they brought a man, God to set you up. And then they went, he was excellent.
That's right.
Our crowd was good, but there was another lady, he and her couldn't get along, and they had an argument. Bam. He fired her, but you can't fire a civil servant like that. I don't know how you on get it done. Like, you have to go through a whole lot of paperwork. And they ended up firing him. But she thought they were going to give her the position, but they gave me the position.
Wow.
And since then, I went from operations, working operations, I went to information security side of that unit, disaster recovery, all of that. I worked from there to starting the help desk, did the server management, then into procurement for IT. And now I am the deputy director of procurement for the entire agency. But I'll tell you about that a little later when we get into both of them. I'm deputy director of procurement and administration in HR.
So it sounds like these opportunities.
Can I jump in, Mr. James? That was an incredible story. And I just want to just touch on a couple of things that you said that are so crucial in the growth and development of an individual, personal growth, personal and professional growth and development. One common denominator and through line we have among you and another guest is that we realize never let yourself be idle. Always do something. Always find something to do to keep yourself going until you find your way, and you will find your way. Another thing you said, very important, I lectured on this and wrote programs on this, and this is preparation, always being prepared and positioning yourself. Everyone thinks that you could just walk into where you want to be. That it don't work that way. You got to prepare, position yourself, and be ready for the opportunity when it came. And you're a perfect example of that.
And to strengthen that, it doesn't come easy.
No, not at all.
It doesn't come easy, but the word that I've been using lately, and I've been using this a lot, is consistency.
Yeah, and consistency. Consistency is the refining fire that forges everything in success. There we go.
Consistency leads to success, and success leads to greatness.
There we go.
The issue we have with people want to go from beginning straight through to success or greatness, but they don't consider the challenges in between.
Yeah.
They don't consider the stumbling blocks that are set before them. And sometimes just see them coming, you have to prepare yourself.
Yeah. As you were talking, it just made me think about my journey when I came to New York in 1999 with $200 in my pocket and a dream. The dream was to be a singer at the time. So I was trying to get with the record companies and stuff. And then I started that journey when I came here. And then I started finding other opportunities because I needed to make an income while I was here. So I needed to eat. I needed a roof over my head. So I started to try different things out. And then recruiting found me. And then all of a sudden that turned into HR. And here I am now an HR partner for a global company. You know what I'm saying? It just showed me that your humble beginnings from Barbados and then coming here and you just, hey, I need to be actively doing something. It's similar. You kept yourself open to things, to try things. And here you are. Now you're this professional over a period of time, established yourself through just keeping an open mind and with that consistency, like you're saying. Early on, though, you talked about a little bit about your challenges that I think you were hinting around speech and your boss. Were you talking more so around your ability to communicate because of your dialect? Or
Initially, I used to speak very fast. Sometimes I speak fast, and if you get me angry, I could rattle off, and you really don't know what I'm talking about. If I'm in a group of Bajans and we're having fun and we're talking, some people would think, but initially I used to speak really fast. So I had to really, and I keep telling people, telling me, but you still sound like if you're from Barbados. I said, I am from Barbados.
That's right.
I just get my time and I speak. I don't have, and this is New York. This is America. We're a melting pot. People come from here. No, it's not the time for you to come here in 2 days just speaking. If you were born here, you can't. That's least of my worry.
That's right.
That's least of my worry. So I had to take my time and I had to really think before I speak because I was a fast speaker. And like I said, things didn't come easy because at one point when I was in operations, the Director of Information Security, there was a deputy director, who didn't like me. And then someone let me, I make a call because I was up at information security. And this guy did something which was really there. I can't go to you. You're her director. I went to the person I was supposed to go to. So what I did, she then deemed it was right. And she put me back into operations.
Wow.
But that was okay because sometimes you got to understand. I always, the analogy, it was Joseph and his brothers sold him into Egypt.
Right.
And a lot of people on IT used to complain to this lady about me. All of them left and gone. All got fired. You understand?
yeah.
So I always use that. And they put me back in operation. And while I was in operations, any special project they needed to do, 1099 forms, who they're coming to, they have to come to me because I had that knowledge. Nobody else had that knowledge. All the stuff bringing the help desk was having issues and they couldn't find anybody to do it when they came in. That's why I tell you, even though sometimes things might not, there might be bad, but that does not necessarily mean that setback is where it keep you progressing.
I think,
Go ahead.
I think as especially people with our color, our skin, working in the corporate world, and I'm curious to see what you would say to this actually with your experience working in the corporate world too, is that I found that I've always had to figure out ways to, like, I guess, speak their language, you know what I'm saying, in a way to integrate myself within, because the fact is we speak differently when we're not at work. We do. Matter of fact, there's Black people at my company. When we all together, we speaking differently, you know what I'm saying, in some ways, right? And then when you're in a room, in a conference call with 20 people and you're like the one or two Black person in that room, then you start speaking really good British English.
You have, I knew there was, when I did my DE education, there was a course that I did too, that speak abroad. Even though that's the case, you still have to give everybody a voice at the table.
Right.
You just can't ignore people because they might not be speaking your language. You have to give them that voice.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to get that.
Thank you,
voice.
Andrew. Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to get that and was able to, and it came over time as well. Because at one point I felt I was not having reach. I felt like if I'm in the room, all these people, I'm doing this, but yet I see them as more educated and have more knowledge than I do. But now when I talk to people, and my staff like, Rodney, how do you remember these things? How do you get these things? But I said, but I've been here 29 years. Some of them been there just as low as I am. But you have to apply yourself to knowledge and apply yourself to learning because it makes a difference. So that when you sit at the table, you just don't sit at the table, that you become the voice at the table.
That's right.
Well, how can you meet the day? Because we interviewed 3 people for a position, for the actual position. I worked to Barbados, my agency is here, or he's not on listening. And when we finished, they wanted to hire a particular person. But I said, you want to hire him for something that we could already do in-house. He's somebody who's strategic, bringing to the table more qualified than the guy that you want.
That's right.
If you know me, I'm relentless. And I felt for her and the other guy, I thought, no, he's better. I want him to work, not that person. And I ended up getting what I want. And I wasn't at rest. Because many times we see things happening and we don't say things.
Yes, I agree with you to 2,000% because being in HR and being in recruiting for corporate companies and helping managers find the right people and see them make. At first, I just didn't feel I have enough power to say nothing. But as I started to get more comfortable in my shoes, I started speaking up too. Because the fact is, I've seen people pass up people because maybe, disclaimer, I'm not talking about the current company I'm at right now because I'm employed there. Okay. Anyway, just want to put that out there.
No, it doesn't matter how.
But anyway, past companies, I would see people, oh, they didn't go to Pepperdine College. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's where I went. But I know I would people from there. Okay, now you're discriminating based on education. Or someone did their resume and they got one typo. And they're actually someone who speaks English as a second language, and having a manager say, I'm not going to interview them because if they can't pay attention to detail and they miss this, they're going to miss the work. And then I'm like, first of all, the CEO of our company, his name is Fernando something, and his English is a second language for him. Okay. And sometimes when I see them emails, they're not correct. Okay. So are we really being that picky and rejecting people based on typos? You know what I'm saying? I can understand if it's like all over the place, but this person was being like very specific, one typo. So to my point is that we have always had to feel like we've had to be a lot more, we have to be perfect in those environments and we can't be ourselves. But I have seen a shift in the last 10 years of that changing. So I'm gonna bring it back to positive. And I wonder, is that something you've been seeing in your industry? In my industry, I've been seeing people be more loose, even dress code, even, for example, Black women now wearing afros to work. In the past, I would say the 90s, you didn't see nothing like that. Everybody's hair was permed out. Now I'm seeing the young generation, they're like, no, I want to be accepted as who I am. You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts on that?
But I think that more so have to do with times.
Yep.
Back then, people wanted to identify. They wanted to straighten here. They wanted to long here. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do that. But now people are realizing I want to be my authentic self.
That's right.
I want to come in because on my job, we still have a certain dress code, a certain decorum where you carry yourself. If I wear a hoodie to work, my executive director, she doesn't like hoodies and stuff like that. But we can't really that. I could wear jeans. We could wear jeans on a Friday. But I know a lot of sisters that come with it here, whatever, however. That is more so the change of the time where we have become more Afrocentric than we were before. And now it's not a matter of they're feeling comfortable, but it's a more of an awareness of who we are as a people, who we are as a culture, and we want to show up. And my job allows you to show up as who you are, as long as you don't show up naked.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I think it more for a long day, but I think it's also along the line too. We have become more vocal.
That's right.
I hear you.
That's right.
We have become more vocal, and I'll tell you how I get into the chair of the DEIB committee, because I was in IT procurement. I was the associate director in IT procurement. In IT, I was associate director, and agency, once you're a director or deputy director, you have offices. Now, I didn't have an office, and I reported directly to the CIO, me, and then 2 extra deputy directors and another manager. He's a manager. I'm associate director who's higher than him. Then the other managers who report up to deputy director who report up. Remember, I'm reporting now to the CIO. And as the head of procurement, I heard the executive director, and I told her about it. And I heard her say, oh, because I have this young lady that I hired as a consultant, she's excellent. They were doing this LRP project, nobody from Measures in Europe, whatever. We were doing the LRP project. And they give us $160,000 to hire three consultants and procurement. I said, well, what am I going to hire from them? Somebody coming from school?
Right.
And I hired this young lady who was really qualified. And I said, I will forego everybody else. And I would take her because she's excellent. They had an issue paying her $80-something an hour.
Of course.
And they're saying, she's Hispanic, and they're saying, oh, and then she made a statement on the line that it's only clerical. That rubbed me so bad. So then when we started the DEIB committee on the job, it was a volunteer committee, and I volunteered. So every time I go to the meeting, this Caucasian lady will come, and she would be giving up the agenda, and she'd be her. So I went to her, I said, you're a person, you're a privilege. You should not be the chair of a DEIB committee.
That's right.
I said, because you're a privilege, and you want me to tell you about myself. And she was like, no, I thought I'm going to go to the executive director. She sent right over to the executive director. See what I mean? I was in Parliament, and I went to the executive director. And I said to her, point blank, I said, Jane Doe is a Caucasian lady, where she should not be the chairman of a DEIB committee because she is a woman of privilege, and she's reporting to you, who's a woman of privilege, who's reporting about all white EGB board.
That's right.
Not board. I said that. And I said that. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Let me tell you about myself. I said I work in IT. I'm an associate director. I report directly to the CIO. I said I don't have an office. And I said there are people who are lower than me entitled to have offices, and they make more money than me. And I said, you made a comment before that it's just clerical. I said, but let me lay it up to you. I thought I have my bachelor's in computer system, and I have an MBA. I put my MBA to use when I'm dealing with those contracts, when I'm working with budget. So don't tell me because of that I'm this. I said, let me tell you. I never thought I would leave Measures, but I'm looking for a job. And if anybody come and give me a job, I'm out of here because you're not doing it for me. Somebody can do it for me, I can do it for myself. I said, I told you what I was going to tell you. And I said that is it. I said she should not be the chairman of the DEIB committee. And if you're not going to give me a raise and give me what I deserve, I'm out of here. Me at the office and say, oh, Rodney, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, don't leave, I'm doing this. Show me the money, tell her what you're doing. But no, I'm out of here. She merged the units together. Procurement on it and administration of the IT that we do everything for, and made me the deputy director of procurement and administration. And then I said, and then she said, and then I volunteered to be the chairman of the DEIB committee because I can't believe that all these people of color on this committee, you have one person who that she's the only one that could do this job.
She was put there to control,
right?
To suppress any initiatives, okay? But you, man, you the man. You stuck your neck out. You took the risk. You took the risk of what could come from a situation from speaking out, and it actually worked in your favor. A lot of people don't work in their favor when they do stuff like that. Let's just keep it real.
He was a disruptor. You have to be a disruptor if you want to get something done.
And as long,
and the thing about it is, you got to do it respectfully.
Of course.
Of course.
You did it with the data. You had the data. You had the receipts.
The executive director like this, when my mom passed away, and I went to Barbados in September of 2020. She said, Rodney, stay there, work from there because we're working from home. Spend Christmas for real family. The only reason why we came back was when New York, America was shutting down, so you have to get a vaccine to come back in. Or we came back.
Wow.
Incredible.
I'm glad that we pivoted You already pivoted us to the DEI conversation. So let's just stay there and tackle that, because we got to tackle the other stuff that you have going on too. And I suspect this to be a really good conversation, because me and my brother here, Mr. Wilder, we agree on some things about D&I and we disagree on some things. I don't think we just met, so I don't think you're on some of our earlier streams, because we were talking about D&I for almost 2 weeks, I think. But I'm not going to steal Wilder's perspective. I'll let him speak on it on his own. But here's my perspective, and then I'll have Mr. Wilder tell you his perspective, and then we'll like to hear from you. So my perspective right now with the things that are going on in D&I right now, DEI, sorry, that with this new administration, the things that are being taken away, these programs at like places like Target, all these different corporations, and the federal government programs going away, and the stuff they're changing in the military. I believe that it's a problem. I believe that it's not a good thing for us. And I believe that DEI programs in these businesses have been great things. Not all companies execute DEI the right way, just like you just gave us the example. But I have worked at places that I felt so much better being a Black man in that company because of the programs they have, because of the efforts they make. They're not perfect, but there were things that were done that have made me feel more accepted in some of the companies that I've experienced with DEI programs. Des, Mr. Wilder?
Interesting enough, Mr. Rodney just confirmed what I've been saying all along and my standpoint of DEI. And so I always separate. You have DEI as a program or a division within a company. And in short, like in D'Angelo's case, some companies may execute it very well, and they may find the way to establish it and to utilize it, implement it in their organization. From my standpoint, I'm talking about from the government down, from the initiation of the use of the name DEI and how it's going to be implemented throughout society and throughout companies. And my standpoint and my feelings was it was designed to fail from the beginning. There was no intention for it to work. There was no intention for there to be true diversity, true equity, or true inclusion. And I'm associating that to what Rodney just said. You put the wrong person at the head of the committee just to make sure that things don't go right. Things go left. We're seeing things play out right now, but that's been my perspective. And Mr. James and I have been going back and forth on that.
So before you go, Rodney, on to what your thoughts are, I'm sure you're aware of the things that are happening in the administration. It being taken away and these things being pulled back. It sounds like, I'm not trying to take words out of your mouth, Mr. Wilder, but it sounds like it doesn't matter anyway because they were ineffective. That's your mindset.
Oh, the mindset that is not just ineffective. The mindset was that it was designed to fail. They had no intention for it to be a success. They had no intention to correctly implement it throughout society to create inclusion, equity, and diversity.
Okay, so we'll stop there. So, Mr. Rodney, what's your thoughts?
I can't speak on the fact that that it was designed to fail. I think from looking through the lens of everything that's going on, I could speak for NYCHERS. I could tell you it was not necessarily designed to fail. I honestly thought that for me is this individual was the one that went out with the consultant. She went out, get the BCT partners, all these things. And actually the guy from the BCT partner was on one of Trump's, he was on Trump's show, The Apprentice, actually. Yeah, he started the program. And I think from their perspective is because she was the key person dealing with that, they felt that she could have continued to run with it. Right. Now, when you say A, you got to say B, because when you look at DEI, and my job, we call it DEIB because they include belonging. And when you look at the federal level, and I would like to hear what DE Wilder is, his take on affirmative action. Because if you think affirmative action was designed to fail, then if you think DEIB was designed to fail, then affirmative action that they got rid of, to me, you would say that it was designed to fail too, because to me, they all carry the same weight because they all dealt with equity. Hold on, you're going to shake your head, but they took away. The first thing they do was to take away that affirmative action. That made a way for people like us to get into the colleges and the schools that we were otherwise shut off from us, because this person mother went there, this person father went there, these people went there. They had the privilege to work, but we who were just as much educated or more educated were shut off. So that opened the door for us, but they got rid of that. But we should have known that when they got rid of that, they were also going to burn for the DEI. And we also got to look for the Voter Act too, that they're going to. I won't be surprised if Trump comes for that, because we're looking at these smoking systems. We're looking at these different things, but we're not looking at the bigger picture that's going to come down the pipe. And I keep telling people that we're fighting for things that, but to me, for DEI, it is a sad thing where he is trying to rewrite African American history, to wipe it out of the American history altogether. If you look and see what he's doing from the federal level and coming down, we decided at our agency, we are not getting rid of DEI, they're keepable. Even if you listen to the Governor Holcomb, she said that they're not going to address that with the schools or anything like that. A lady on my chat said, her name is Gwen. She says she believes, she agree with you, Mr. Wilder. She understands your perspective. And I could get your perspective as well. Setting things up where you want it to feel, but not knowing that the momentum that would have been behind it to push it to where it is today. And typically, we are not the ones that benefit from DEI, you know?
Exactly. DEI wasn't even designed to the people of color, technically.
We put the white female is who
Correct.
I deal with WMBE, MWBE vendors.
Right. That's right.
White females, and some of these white males hide behind these.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's true. But with that being said, it still allowed us to be able to sit at the table. It still allowed us to get that equity. It still allowed us to get to in a position where we can say, okay, I have arrived and I'm able to give you this opinion. And it made a way for us. But now, companies don't have to hire us because I had this with this guy in this locker room who was like, no, I get to where I am because of my education. I get to where I am because of my brother. There are a lot of people that have education and knowledge and not get held to our skills. Had it not with affirmative action, had it not for them.
Yes, because when
Let
you
me chime in, Mr. James, please, because I want to respond directly. Hold on 1 second, please. This is important. I want to respond directly to Mr. Rodney said. So when he spoke of my thoughts on affirmative action, it's the polar opposite. But affirmative action wasn't something that anyone gave us. We fought for affirmative action. Affirmative action was it became a mandate, just like the Voting Rights Act became a bill. So these things were mandated and they were enforced, and they became part of a law. And they made a tremendous difference at a time where that difference was necessary. Okay? In contrast, DEI was more or less a philosophy. It wasn't a mandate, nor was it a bill. So therefore, it gave each institution the option and the right to implement it any way that they see fit. And that's where the failure is in the plan. Once you don't have a uniformity and you don't have a bill and you don't have a level of enforcement, that's where everything is going to go wrong. That's why I said it was designed to fail.
That's not absolute. That's not. You're almost 100% accurate, but you're not. You're like 95% accurate. When you got to the point where you're about to say that they can do it any way they want, there are auditing D&I companies that come into, for example, my company and companies I work with every year that look at how you're benchmarking. There's benchmarking metrics and everything behind all of this that they go, okay, this is how many people we have. This is how many women we have in this company. This is how many LGBT we have in this company. This is how many blah, blah, blah. This is how many. And they look at that every year and they see how they're benchmarking. And they actually, and again, I'm going to keep it real. I'm not saying I agree with you, Des. There are companies that are just like loosey-goosey with it. but I can only compare my industry like he can only compare his. My industry, they look at it from a competitive standpoint. What is so-and-so doing? How are they performing in this area? Because Black people want to go where they're wanted. And so now it's become a business thing. The DEI has become a business thing in terms of how they show up in the community, different programs like we have, for example, internship programs, things like that, and being intentional, going to, instead of Ivy League schools, DEI program, we're going to go to community schools because that's where there's really more Black and brown people, stuff like that, right? So I just think that's the only thing that is missing from what you're saying, because then it's like you're putting a blanket on every single business and saying it doesn't work. Yes, they do what they want to do, but there are guardrails.
That's the only standpoint I can go from. I can't go and nitpick down to every single company and say this one does it, that one doesn't. I don't have the information or the data to be able to do that, although I'm an analyst. But this is my last point and my last argument to this conversation. When you think about how DEI was implemented in the technology industry, you talk about Silicon Valley, which have less than 5% of people of color. When I say people of color, Black and brown people, okay? So when it was implemented in that industry, they asked them to show the data. We want to see a specific data, like you mentioned, of how many Black or brown people are there and what positions they are, and give us a report and so on and so forth. At the point that we are at now, they were the first ones to get rid of the DEI and make a declaration that they no longer was going to adhere to that. But secondly, those numbers haven't changed. If anything, they got worse. So you can have the data. I'm not looking at the data. I'm looking at the results.
Listen, right? My job, we do that quarterly for the city as well. When we got the EEO officer, the DEIB executive director, all we come and we talk about how many people left the agency, how many females were hired, how many Black and brown, but it still does not negate the fact that in certain positions, you still have that color code. And my agency was real diverse, but now is the new people are coming in are people are not of color.
That's my point I'm making. Yeah,
not of color. So now in my agency, and I had this, and I went to the executive director with this. Now they're decoupling, they're putting HR and training together, which they were before, and they're putting administration, procurement, and budgeting under one umbrella. Now you took two men of color, and you fold them up under this Caucasian guy who's been there for 6 years in the military and been at the job for 3 months out of those 6 years. And I said to her, you're rewarding this for somebody, and you're not looking at us. So you see, even though sometimes you might have these things in place, we still have to fight, and we still have to push, and we still have to deal with the nonsense.
That's right. That's right.
That's why while the Gwen said it's almost like they were throwing us a bone.
Right.
It's the program to show us that we don't want to keep you down. But when you still have the answer to one that has or wants power over you, it's counterproductive.
Yes. Correct.
And she said time is turning back, which is true.
That's why we need to have more businesses that are created by us so we can have more control.
Why is it up now?
Yes.
It's a little late, but
it's not late. Better late than never. But November 5th taught us a lesson, and we are wising up.
Correct. That's part of our conversation. That's part of what's happening right now. And that's why I said that we live in the most interesting time, and the things that are happening that we're so fearful of us, or we're saying, oh, this is so terrible. Truth be told, it's a blessing in disguise, because it's forcing, fast forwarding the fact that we got to wise up, we got to see our own power, and we got to hold on to that power.
Yeah.
So what do you see, Rodney, as the most pressing diversity inclusion issue to speak on right now at this moment?
I think that it's that equity level that to me, that's one of the most powerful ones that we have here. I think we need to have, and I thought it on my job, people been on the same race, same level, but yet those who are of a certain persuasion would get a higher pay than those, and the ones down there wouldn't, they have the knowledge to work, and that one would rise up. I've seen it over and over again, and that is something that we have to address. Because somehow me and my one, my, and as directors at Leicester, they think that Black people don't know how to spend money. They think we don't know how to understand it. And I think we could deal with that on the being equitable across the table. It will help us out a lot.
Mm.
Say,
So I guess we'll just say that with this diversity conversation, I think we'll just agree that Desmond's wrong, and me and you agree with me, and that's about it.
You know that there's a song, there's a show that we say you take the good, to take the bad, to put them on. To have the facts of life. That's we put it that way. We have the fact of life, the good, the bad, and we put it all together. We have the fact of life because we are all seeing the same thing, but coming from a different angle.
Right.
If you actually think about it,
Right. It was just that I brought you on the show to be more on my angle. That's all it was. That's all it was, man. And I'm just so disappointed right now. I'm just
brother Rodney, he needs that. He needs that. So go ahead.
okay, you'll get it. That's all right. That's fine.
okay. So let's bring it into something a little bit lighter now. How about that? Because that was heavy a little bit there.
I want to talk about Calypso Size. Now I want to talk about Calypso
We
Size.
getting there. We getting there.
We
gotta.
say we all exactly saying the same thing. Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah. And by the way, make sure you connect. Everybody connect with each other on here, wherever you are, whoever's live. Share out the live so more people can see this great conversation. All right. So I have a question for you. Can you share a memorable moment or achievement from your journey that you can think of right now?
Of the fact that my kids, I think that's a good memorable moment. I'm a fanatic when it comes to school. And I did my bachelor's, master's, everything back to back. And I love graduation. One of the most memorable things that I can remember is my graduation from my master's. I graduated at the top of the class. And I have to give a speech. But not only that, but I was like, wow, I'm done. I'm not going back for another degree. But then I'm thinking about this young kid from Chaka Hall, St. Lucie in Barbados.
Wow.
The only child my mother had that went to college, got a degree, finished, and having this job. So if there's anything that I could sit back besides having my 3 kids, is the fact that I have these accolades, these degrees, and I could use them to I use my degrees every day.
How has that achievement impacted your life and career?
I think the bachelor's degree, because I said if I have to go back again and do a master's, I won't be doing a master's if I'm working for the city, because it really didn't give me a raise. It didn't add anything, pad my nothing. But I just did it more so for me because it was a dream that I wanted to do. Besides, the student knows that left here, God have mercy, front. It left me feeling good. And I always look up to my cousin. And I have family that my cousins and them that went to college and did well and did great. So I was like, I want to do that too. I want to become somebody. And for me to become somebody, I think I had to go and get a master's, because I don't think I would have been comfortable if I didn't have my master's.
Nice. That's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
And you talked about in your journey about the fact of your biggest influence being a person by the name Stanley Moore. How did this person influence you, and at what point of your life did you get this influence that was so significant?
I had so many people that impacted my life. Like I mentioned, hers, she's from St. John. But Reverend Stanley Moore, when I came to New York, and I was living in Crow Heights, and Father's Day of 1993, I was looking for a church. I was living on Virginia Place. I don't know if there were smaller streets, Virginia, between Sterling and Park Place. And there's a big church at the corner, a big Baptist church at the corner of Kingston and Park. And I came out and I walked to that church, and I was like, no, I don't feel comfortable at that church. I walked around every time. I used to go on church with my cousin on a Saturday, but she's Adventist. But I'm not Adventist. I like a lot of noise. I like tambourine. I like drums. I like the works. And I like to relax on Saturdays. So I came out that Sunday afternoon and I walk around and I stumbled upon the church, real church of the Nazarene. And when I went into that church, it was a Father's Day program. And I went in and I sat next to this lady. Her name was Christine. And Christine embraced me. She happens to be the daughter of Reverend Stanley Moore.
Oh,
And I sat next to her. She had a tambourine. I took the tambourine. I beat the tambourine. She invited me to their house. Then Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving was at their house. And I became like their family. The daughters, Brenda, she's who got me the job at Nicers. Before I started working, she had a son. I used to babysit her son. I mean, he's 30-something now. He was sitting the other day. We would went back and forth. But that family have impacted my life. But Pastor Moore brought me my first winter coat. He would, anything that I need, Pastor Moore would give it to me. And I would always see him as a great influencer. Because not only me, but he did so much for so many people in the church. He loved the young people. He embraced the young people. He married my ex-wife and I. We got in the office. He was there for me. He said, Rodney, you could do whatever you have to do for her. Once you do what you have to do, you could take a piece of card and she would follow you wherever you want to go. Pastor Moore did things for people we never thought. Invited me to his house in Berg. He stood ground. He godfather for my kids. The day that Pastor Moore died, and he influenced me because I knew what he were doing for people. I didn't know to what extent. Because if he did it for me, there were other people who would put us in the back of his station wagon. He would roar. He was a true servant, a true man of God. He would give up the salary at the church because he was also retired as well. Like he could work at not downstairs, Kings County Hospital or whatever. But he would give to people, help people pay up the mortgages and stuff. And he said to me, Rodney, you don't have to repeat when you go through life. There are other people that you could help. He was telling me, Rod, would pay it forward.
that's right.
He was telling me, Rod, and from then on, anyone that I come in contact with and I could help, I would help.
Wow.
And he changed my perspective in life, even on my job. I don't micromanage my people, but I fight for my people. I tell my boss, you don't have to give me a raise, give it to them. They're the ones that do the work. And I tell people a true servant is not someone that look at people and tell them do this and do that. You got to be able to run up your seat and get the job done. But you got to realize that your workers are working and you're the one that should be serving them.
That's right.
My mentality for my.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what lessons did he instill on you? But it just sounded like you just told us what lessons
It was a life lesson and some principles.
It was. It really was. He was a true. When he died, I cried more for you than I cried for my father. Because this man was, and the church was packed all over the gym, all over. It was a sad day.
Wow.
Wow. Interesting.
That's a beautiful legacy. You just say here the impact that he had on your life.
He's a good man. And since he left, the church has gone.
So,